Hello, everyone. My name is Gabriel Hirschberger, host of the 20 Mile March podcast, and I'm excited to introduce to you Ronan Leonard. Did I say your name right?
You did, yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gabriel.
From Melbourne, Australia. He connects small business owners to support groups through the innovative concept of virtual masterminds. And I've known him as like the mastermind guy. I want to then just give it to you, Ronan, to give you a little bit more of an intro so I don't get it completely wrong.
Sure. I've had quite a checkered, I wouldn't even call it a career, to be honest, because I never really set out to have any kind of career. 23, I got a job working on cruise ships. Within 6 weeks of working on the ship, we were off the wild coast of South Africa. A violent storm hit and the ship sunk.
Wow.
And the officers and crew abandoned in one lifeboat, leaving most of the entertainment staff and myself, who worked in the gift shop then, to help people get into lifeboats and helicopters in the morning. But that didn't put me off. I spent another 9 years working on cruise ships. I traveled the world, amazing experiences, went to some just fantastic countries and got paid for it. It was awesome. And then I met my wife.
I think after the ship sunk, I would have been like, nope, that's it. Like, there you did it, 9 more years.
I figured I can't be as unlucky a second time. So a couple of close calls, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then I met my wife working on cruise ships and moved to Melbourne. I'm originally from the UK. And I set my own casino party business up back in 2003. And it grew from one table through to 50, Australia-wide. And last year I sold that because I realized that what I'm really good at is helping small business owners and connecting with them. And I just love teaching the concept of masterminds, or the concept that they really need to be helping each other and connecting with each other to solve their problems.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my career, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. Why are you particularly passionate about this idea that we've lost our connection with the tribe, and that you see yourself as the person who can sort of facilitate these tribes in these groups? What is that? Why has it become something that you've really just gone after?
Well, first of all, it was something that was missing for a big part of my business. I didn't have a sounding board. I didn't have a mentor. So I just struggled it on my own. I was trying to figure it all out. And that can get quite exhausting and isolating. I had a lot of contractors and freelancers in my business that work sort of part-time because it's very, very seasonal. And they would often start business on the side, and they'd come to me and ask me for advice. But I'm not a business coach, and I don't profess to be an expert. And I'm often wary of experts. It's a label that seems to signify that you've stopped growing when you label yourself as an expert. But I also believe that there is no one guru out there. And if there was, you probably couldn't afford him. If there was some person that knew everything that you needed to ask about business, they'd be charging you, I don't know, $5,000 an hour or something crazy like that, that you just can't afford that. But you do need to be investing in some kind of capacity in self-development and learning. And one of the cheapest ways to do that is either for free to connect with the people through their own little mastermind, or to join a mastermind group, which is a fraction of the price of coaching. And you learn from your peers. These are people that have the same frustrations, problems, fears, doubts, and roadblocks that you have. Often they've just figured it out themselves, so they can help you, and they're able to give you that perspective, accountability, and advice that we all need at every aspect of our business.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that people are new to the idea of masterminds, or do you feel that they have trouble finding and connecting with people? Or, and I guess I shouldn't have a third question, but a stack onto it, or do you feel like, and I'm hypothesizing here, or is it just a feeling of some people, I'll just go alone, I'll just be the lone wolf and just do it because I'm like a man, I'm that way.
Well, it's a good triple question. Ultimately, I think if you're in the internet marketing space, you're probably aware of the mastermind concept. Even if you've not heard of the concept before, you would have seen it in different guises.
Mm-hmm.
But there's writers groups. If you think of study groups in high school, that's all it is. You don't sit there and study and try and figure it out yourself. You get together, and you would know from learning any kind of problem, there's more than one way to address it, and we learn differently. And that's the key of having more than one sort of person. Have you ever been at a sort of high school or university where you have a teacher and you just don't get it, and then you change teachers or courses or explained in a different way, and that same problem becomes simple to you? It might be trigonometry. So my point is that there is more than one way to learn something, and there's more than one way to teach something. So when we can find a different way to learn and different perspectives, we grow much quicker and we learn a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've found that I really like the video. I like video visuals and videos. I find that I'm able to follow something a lot better if I have a lot with supplementing with text, but having a lot of pictures to go along with it, especially when it comes to trying to like put particular formulas in an Excel sheet in a certain way. Seeing the pictures, the screenshots is super helpful for me as a learner, and maybe other people can just do it. Hearing it or just doing it in text.
Yeah, the reality is we're all different. We're all unique, and we all have different perspectives. We have different experiences, and we have different ideas. And when you bring all those together in a mastermind, it's far easier to solve a problem because you're tapping into everybody's collective brain. I mean, it's based on the Napoleon Hill book Think or Grow Rich, where he talks about a mastermind is where two or more people come together and they create that third supermind. And it's such a powerful concept, and yet everybody thinks they either need to go it alone, talk about the lone wolf, or they'll hire a business coach and get just one perspective, that business coach who hopefully has the right sort of match to them and has enough knowledge to sort of get them where they need to be. But effectively, I call it crowdsourcing everybody's brain and everybody's mind. Where it's that collective experience of everybody, not just one person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of times someone will have an idea that can really help solve a problem that somebody's been struggling with quite a long time. And because they just are coming at it in the same way, and that no matter how big of a hammer they can wield, that they can't solve the problem. Is there a optimal size that you have found in a mastermind group?
For online, about eight is optimal because not everyone can make it every week. So you might have one or two people that are away that week, and then you get sort of 6. If you've got a mastermind of 2 or 3, you only need one person to be away. It's just 2 people in a room, and there's just not that true sort of diversity of thought. So around about 8 online. You can in person do bigger than that, but again, a mastermind group is about sort of connecting on a deeper level. And you don't get that for a half-day workshop. You're not going to really open up. So I believe masterminds are all about creating real trust and getting to really know that person, because the more you know them, the more you're able to offer them the right advice for them, because it's not something superficial. You could say, oh yeah, just try email marketing, without ever knowing their business. So you're offering solutions that are really based on that person that you've got to know, like, and trust. And that's a huge sort of factor in there, versus people that don't have really the vested interest in your business or the knowledge, or both. And Facebook groups are notorious for that. You can post a question on Facebook group and you get these 2D generic answers. They don't know you. They don't know your revenue, they don't know your experience, they don't know where you're at. So half the time when they're posting that advice, it's it's incorrect and sometimes completely misleading because they just don't know you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you think that the personal aspect is just as important of getting to know somebody and being willing to be kind of really vulnerable and bring their true self and authentic self into the mastermind is a real important part of it that's really makes then that mastermind a powerful, third entity?
Yeah, it's a huge part of it, to be honest. We look for people that actually like helping people. And that sounds a little bit odd. There are people in business that are in business just to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And then for everyone else that have that intrinsic value, they genuinely like helping solve problems, because that's all business is. You solving somebody's problem at a price they're willing to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
But it's actually solving that problem, not just taking their money and going, well, I gave you something that was half-baked.
Yeah.
So you look for those people that genuinely love helping their customers and solving them. And again, if you've looked at any kind of successful person, they love helping others, and it comes back in spades. That reciprocity of helping people, often without expectation, knowing that the universe will pay it forward and other people will help you when you ask. And don't be afraid to ask. We live in this society where everything we see online is that everybody's winning, everyone's got a perfect lifestyle, everyone's sort of got it all made. And that's just so far from the truth. Mm-hmm. So asking for help and is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of courage. It's a sign of strength. And when you do that, people will, when you do it with genuine, it's a genuine sort of request, people will help you, and vice versa. You will enjoy helping others as well. You get just as much enjoyment from seeing someone succeed from an idea or a suggestion or some help you've given people, and they've taken that and gone, oh, that was awesome, it worked. I got 2 new clients this week. We love seeing that in the mastermind groups. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is the optimal frequency once a week?
Once a week for some people, once a fortnight for others. Any more than that, and you can spend too long off track. To be honest, it's one of those things where
Sorry to interrupt. What's a fortnight? That's not a term that I'm familiar with. Oh, 2 weeks. Got it. Thank you. I'm such an ignorant American. I apologize.
Colloquial, yes.
I love it.
Yes. Every 2 weeks.
I love fortnight better. I'm going to start using that from now on.
If you're gonna spend that time to get to know and trust people, a month is a long time to reset and recalibrate. What have you worked on, especially for accountability? Accountability is one of the biggest issues we face. So if you haven't touched base with your tribe for a month, then so many things could have gone off track and derailed, that you're just not staying focused and on point and sticking to your goals that you set. So reality is, once a week or once every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there a good format to keep the news, like having a rotating hot seat and everybody focusing on that one person's problem, and then it's the next week another person takes the hot seat? Or is it free for all, chaos, just who's the loudest? It has
No, free for alls don't work. So definitely having a structure works really well. Traditionally, we tend to do 5 things. We talk about your wins. We don't celebrate wins enough in business. We're always focused on the problems we've got, because that's pretty much business is, I've got this problem, got that problem, I need to solve this. So we become fixated with problems. We look for problems everywhere, and that can wear you down. And we forget to celebrate the wins. It doesn't matter how small or big business you're in. It's great to celebrate the wins. I got 2 new clients this week, or I finished this project. It's been kicking around for ages, and you've got to celebrate the wins, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So we do wins, we do outcomes from that, we do challenges, and we do the goals that they're going to set for the week. And I also like to do a thing called lessons learned. I believe that we should be constantly learning things and reflecting on what we learned, because the reality is we know all this stuff. Most of the time people come up and we go, oh, yeah, I forgot that. Forgot that, the habits work. I forgot that technique. I used to do that before and it worked really well and it just slipped off the radar. So I really like to get people to sort of talk about their lessons learned for the week, because it's a super powerful way of just reinforcing what's working for you and what doesn't. If you look at something like Tim Ferriss and Pareto's principle, they talk about the 80-20 principle. 80% of your business comes from 20% of your clients. 80% of your success comes from 20% of your actions. But without sort of looking for those things, you can miss them and still keep working on the wrong 80% rather than focusing on that 20 that's doing the most sort of good for you.
So I like that. What have you learned? Yeah. This last week, I learned a lot about mining and scraping and using all these proper tools and that type of thing, and building, and then enriching the data using these tools as for cold emailing and generating lists. But it was just frustrating and felt like I was in like data mining hell. Like I was like, it was so tedious and everything like that. But to celebrate that as something I've learned, like that kind of feels good, because I did learn a lot, even though I was still sort of like hating part of the process.
When you're learning, you're growing. Any business that says, everything's great and I've got no problems, or I'm not, there's no challenges, they're coasting, because you can always learn, you can always improve, you can always sort of grow. I'll give you an example of my local gym owner. So I've been going to the gym with him, personal training, once a week for 8 years. So about 7-8 years ago, he said, look, I need to update my website. He hasn't done it in 8 years. We talked about WordPress and it's quite easy, and you can do some basic SEO. It won't cost you much. Now, he's an absolute subject matter expert. What he doesn't know about muscles and weights and all those things, his dad was one of these old school, have the elephant stand on him, the strongman type of thing, from the 30s. And there's pictures all around there of the gym from his dad doing that. So he was born into it. He knows his stuff. And in the 8 years, he has never updated his website because it's outside his comfort zone. He's talked about it 4, 5, 6 times. So he'll go and buy new equipment. He'll move equipment around in the gym. So he's busy. He's busy every week, but he's completely ignoring all these other gyms have popped up around him in the last 8 years. They're all better at marketing than him. His gym is pretty good. It's very, very old school. There's a lot of sort of weights. It's sort of, it's not the pretty let's do a spin class. It's old school gym. But there's a place for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he just won't step out of his comfort zone and learn enough about marketing to even pay somebody else. So that's one of the, and that's, I wouldn't say it's heartbreaking, but it's, you feel for him, but you can't force somebody. You can't force somebody to learn. You can't say, look, a couple of times I offered to sort of point him in the right direction, and somebody else that trains with him as well. And he just refuses to change. And you go, okay, well, all right, you've stopped learning. That's fine. I can't force you to change. I offered a couple of times, and you just leave it at that. So you should always be, lessons learned needs to be constant, ongoing.
Yeah, constantly learning and growing. And I've taught people how to do a blog and monetize it, and given them like a whole basically blueprint for it in exchange for they had me over for dinner, and that was really great. But then I keep in touch with them, and they still haven't taken those first steps, even though they said they really wanted to have a blog and get talk about their topic because they felt like they had something to say that was unique. But there's still, you have to do it yourself, for yourself, or to help other people's, and that no one is going to do it for you. So even with all of the resources and tools and buying the most expensive courses, and courses can be real expensive too, that and it's incredible the amount of people that start pay for courses but don't complete them. It's probably like the 80-20 rule again, that again, there is only probably 20% that actually finish these courses. They like the idea of it, of being a Shopify store owner or selling on Amazon. But the action is the tricky bit of it. Which leads to kind of the dot system that I think would be something that I'd like for people to. Is it okay if I put that, like a link to that on the blog? And then
absolutely,
it's a really amazingly beautiful layout of what the dot system is, and it's about a really simple 20-second way of keeping track of a lot of habits and routines that have proven to help entrepreneurs to keep growing, expanding, and keeping them on track. And so there's lots of systems that you can use. This is just one system that you could is an option out there. Super low tech. Do you mind talking about the dot system a little bit?
No, absolutely. It was introduced to me from Andy Drish, who was one of the co-founders from the foundation, originally based on J.G. Rockefeller, who was the oil baron from the US back in the 30s. And he was massively into systems. And ultimately, it's just, and I don't like to use the word easy, because you see that on online marketing all the time, 7 easy steps. It's just easy it is. But it is simple. I prefer to use the word simple. It's a simple way. And like anything, it's simple when you use it. When you don't, it's super complicated or hard. But it's a simple way of just all the promises that you want to make to yourself. You can actually track them just by getting a pen and the dot system and just dotting what previous day. Did I exercise? Did I meditate? Did I fill out my journal? Did I make 5 cold emails or phone calls that I committed to? And when you look at successful people, and I've followed Tim Ferriss quite a bit the last few years, when you look at things like Tribe of Mentors and Tools for Titans, you see these patterns of all those successful people are really good at their commitments and following through on those things. And the same things come up: meditation, journaling, gratitude. A lot of those things just come up time and time and time again. Yeah. So there has to be something in it. And it's, for the majority of these people, it's a routine. And we talked about this before, that everybody wants the freedom of being an entrepreneur, but it's actually the routine, and it's the systems, and it's the habits that will get you where you need to be. And without them and without tracking them, you are just aimless. What am I going to do this week? Let me just wait and see the inbox fills up and I'll respond to those things. And that's not how successful businesses run. They have a goal. They break down that goal into actionable steps, and it's the rituals and habits trump goals every time, because a goal is just a thought bubble of this is what I want, and the rituals and the habits are what actually will get you there. So without them, you're lost. You're never going to achieve your goals. And without tracking those habits and rituals, it's very easy to slip and just not do them. So the dot system, one of the easiest ways of ensuring that those promises you make to yourself, I'm going to meditate every day, that you actually stick to that.
Yeah, there's easy. So there's a great PDF that I'll link to in the show notes that's got 5-minute journal, 25-minute Pomodoro's technique, and 10 minutes of visualization, et cetera, et cetera. You can track that, customize it however you want. And then there's a kind of a neat weekly ritual too, of like reflecting on what you've learned that week, date night, you're in a relationship, or going out on dates, that types of thing. My coach has recommended once a month that I go and do a massage. Because there is a lot of, we hold a lot of tension in our bodies, and that massage can literally physically release that, build up in tension. And some people believe that there is an emotional piece that's also kind of released as well. Some people I've seen kind of cry, or they get better rest after that as well. So there's an interesting emotional thing which I think is stored in muscles as well. So you could keep track of those kinds of things in that and customize it as you wish.
How many habits has your coach recommended for you? Can you give us an example?
Yeah, sure. So for me, it's been doing a manifesto, which is like something that I've written, which is like I read it out loud, and it allows me to then say, this is the future self that I've created 3 months from now. So 3 months from now, I'm helping 20 of my ideal chatbot clients sell more products and services. If I see if I have an idea of that I am in a relationship, then also part of that manifesto is that I am enjoying romantic dates with this significant other of mine, and we're going on hiking and seeing really beautiful things. So speaking of the manifesto out loud is one thing. Number two is a visualization board where you've got some of those visual things that you, beautiful house on whatever it might be, a coastal scene on the beach, and imagining, really picturing yourself in this expansive space, if that's what really lights you up and makes you happy. And all of these things are, the important here is it's not the Lamborghinis, and it's not the stacks of cash. It's those things that bring you joy, bring you more laughter and happiness, and that fuel your being. And so the vision board is centered around that idea, to have focus on those things that are happy, create that kind of joyful, abundant life. Focusing on that for a few minutes while you're in that kind of like dreamy, just waking up state before you get busy with the world. Yeah. And then doing writing 5 things that you're grateful for, and they can be unique, but they can also be super simple as well. They don't have to be profound in the morning, and then 5 grateful things in the evening as well. So it could be something like, I'm just grateful for like my coffee in the morning. It's just, I really appreciate the aroma. And it also could be just like, I'm super grateful for my mom and dad for what they did for me, growing up. Anything that you're grateful for. But gratitude allows you to. It's such a powerful emotion that other negativity and negative thoughts and cannot kind of coexist in that sort of same space that when you feel that gratefulness from your heart. If you're feeling depressed or down or shame or whatever, when you feel that gratitude right in there, it just kind of like, it pushes it out of there. It's like, it expands so much. Then I think that's what's really powerful about it, that it moves those things out of the way, those negative kind of thoughts and feelings that we all have. Because entrepreneurship can be hard. And it is hard sometimes. So that's that's sort of the main daily routine that my coach was telling me to use.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Several of those things that I do myself. So your coach is on the right path.
Yeah, it's helped. It definitely has helped me out, and it's really interesting to see, to go back and look at daily, sort of like what are the things that I was grateful for, and like where I've come. I'm sure you've been doing this for a while now. It's fascinating to look at it retrospectively and see what was really important and top of mind at different stages of your growth.
Yeah, your habits and your rituals will change over time. It goes back to the learning thing that you always want to be adding new things, trialing them. But they don't work for you. They don't work for you. If you've got a mood board visualization and it's just not doing it for you, then find something else. But
Mhm.
find something, and don't just. I think too many people are passive and they just start each day with, let's see what the world throws at me, instead of being a bit more intentional. And when you're more intentional, you're a bit more focused. When you're more intentional, you're much closer to getting your goals and achieving them, because you've scripted your own life. I heard that phrase somewhere about 3 years ago, that you either write your own script or someone else will write it for you.
Yeah.
And if you start the day, or you start every week with no agenda and no real purpose or defined path, then other people will take your time, will push things onto you, or you react to things, and you'll end up with a life that isn't yours, and is just a random collection of other people doing things. So I encourage people to really sit down and work out what they want, plot it out, and the hard part is the 20-mile march, which is executing it, which is sticking to that and going, okay, no matter what, if your most important thing is exercise, do it first thing in the morning, done, over and done with. The rest of the day can go to hell in a basket. You can have a terrible day, but you've done the one thing that you believe in and which is important to you. And it could be meditation, it could be exercise, it could be the gratitude, whatever it is. You do a couple of those things first thing in the morning, and the rest of the day is you've had your you time, and the rest of the day you can donate to other people. You can, whatever you're doing in your business that requires you to put out fires, to constantly be on the go, all of those other things. But you've had your me time, and you've nailed that first part of the day, and the benefits are just, a long term and almost life changing for most people if you commit.
Yeah. Committing. Yeah. If you commit to it, and you pick yourself back up when you fall, when you falter, when you miss a day or 2 days, or you miss a whatever week or a month, you just say, wow, okay, it's time to get back on it, because this is something. Is it still something I'm really truly passionate about, creating a business or working on growing maybe my health, or getting healthier, or reading more books? Okay, then let me get back on it, start tracking it again, measuring it, and moving forward and growing. Back to the topic of masterminds, do you think that do you match? Is it important to have sort of similar levels as far as where everybody's roughly at? And I'm sure there's going to be a bit of variation too. But somebody who's just starting is going to have a hard time keeping up with somebody who's already in like 7-figure revenue of their business.
Yeah, you definitely need levels. We have levels on our platform. There is the plus, minus, and equal effect, where you need people that are in the group that are very similar. So that's the equal. You need people that are a plus, that are potentially a couple of levels up in certain aspects, and the minus, people that aren't quite there yet. So and that dynamic. But obviously, when the bigger the gap, it's almost nobody wins. The newbie sees that person on the 7-figure income and goes, well, how am I ever going to get there? I can't relate to what they're talking about and the strategies. And the person on the 7 figures as well, this person provides no value to me because they're asking simple questions. So you really want to make sure that the gap isn't too skewed or too wide. And we curate that by putting people into those groups that are depending on roughly where they're at. But it's a little bit like dating. There is no exact science. We do a disc personality where they fill out that, because we don't want 8 alpha salespeople all in one group. It's just not going to work. They'll clash. But the reality is, the mastermind group is one of those things where it's an organic thing that has its own vibe and an own sort of fluidity that you just can't predict. And that's one of the great things about it, that you meet people that might be a yin to your yang, but they've got strengths and skills that you don't have, and and different perspectives, and that whole melting pot just creates just an awesome environment to learn and to grow and to understand other people and understand the business skills and ideas. I've got a phrase that 99% of your business problems have already been solved. There's almost no problem around business that hasn't already been solved. You just need to find the people that you can connect to that have those answers that can point you in the right direction and can just help your growth path accelerate. You know, you talk about learning from failure.
Mm-hmm.
How about learning from somebody else's failure rather than your own? It's a lot cheaper to give someone else that's already, hey, I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, very expensive t-shirt, spent 12 months on that, awful idea, don't do it. And you go, oh, thank you. You just saved me 12 months. Haven't had to pay for it. Awesome.
Yeah. Except for, I love that. So except for maybe a couple of exceptional beings like Elon Musk, where some of the problems that he's working on getting to Mars, colonizing that, maybe that people haven't solved some of the problems that he's dealing with. But for us, other people on the planet, like that 99 of your problems have already been solved. So it's interesting. We were talking earlier about the people who are just following a few of the huge entrepreneur rock stars like Gary Vee and Richard Branson, and that it seems like it'd be a good idea to follow those people that are in your kind of sphere, that you can learn from and grow from, whose business is maybe about your size. They're because people say I'm going to be the next Gary Vee, but the likelihood of them truly becoming like that, I mean, I don't want to discourage anybody, but there are those exceptional beings that were brought up and have the DNA of it that is similar enough to become, the Gary Vee or Richard Branson and things. But like you were saying, Richard Branson runs some like 1,000 some companies. I mean, that's kind of crazy. So it seems like we should be paying some attention to other entrepreneurs that are around us, that are on our level, to learn from them and to draw inspiration from what they've achieved, and much more easier to connect with too. It might be quite surprising if you slide into their DMs that, hey, they are much more likely to actually be able to respond to you than say Gary Vee or Richard Branson, because of like the thousands and thousands of messages that they get on a daily basis and the noise that they have.
Yes, obviously you interviewed somebody that did get to meet Gary Vee, but again, meeting him is one thing and getting that advice. We live in an information age now where 30 years ago when you started a business, it was quite difficult. You really to find that information and what you need to know just wasn't readily available. Now it is. It's everywhere. There's podcasts, there's blogs, there's how-to videos, tutorials, everything. But our failure rate in business is the same as it was 30 years ago. So information isn't the answer. What is required is relevancy. Is this relevant to me? Is this relevant to me right now? So if you look at someone like Gary Vee and some of the high-level strategies he even sort of talks about, and we get down this rabbit hole of spending all this time. I've done it myself before, looking at blogs, looking at all these things that aren't relevant to me right now. And effectively, then I've got to relearn that information 12, 18 months when I'm ready to build a funnel, or when I'm looking to do cold emailing, or if I'm looking at using Twitter as a marketing strategy. Mm-hmm. So relevancy for your information more than ever is, to me, extremely important. And most of the information out there isn't relevant to us, or it isn't relevant to us right now. So by curating your own content, be a little more laser focused and quickly going, okay, this blog looks amazing on how this person got 5,000 people signed up to his new CRM in 30 days. Is that relevant to me right now? Am I looking to launch in the next couple of weeks and I've got a CRM? No, I'm not. Let's move on. let's tackle the problem that I've got in front of me at the moment and focus on that and look for relevant information around that particular problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also helps stopping the overwhelm. One of the biggest things I hear about small businesses is they're overwhelmed because there is just so much information out there. There's so many strategies, so many tactics. In the end, you just go, oh, this is too hard. It's too much information out there.
Yeah.
So by dialing down and being in a mastermind group, or at least ensuring that you look for relevant information that's going to solve your problem that week or that month or that growth strategy or that idea that you want to validate, work on that and try and cancel out a lot of the other noise and information out there because it's just not relevant to you, or it's not relevant to you right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I constantly get the barrage of the ads because I'm a perfect target for entrepreneurs to sell their products, and I get these how to scale your agency to 6 figures to seven figures with this like technique, and I'm just so curious, but then I'm like, no, I like slap my hand down so that I don't like click on it or look at it because it's not where I'm at right now, and it'd be a waste of time. So it's just so tempting. So we have to stop ourselves and look at ourselves and say, just because my business will grow and we'll be at that point, when that day comes, that same ad is going to be there. Or maybe I figured it out on my own. So it's like, it's like, let's just find out what you need and where you're at. Do you work with anybody or to get into the masterminds, or do you in your platform, or do you have to have to be qualified, in a certain level to work with you?
I pretty much work with anybody. As I said, I look for the skill set that people are giving, that genuinely want to learn and grow. And that's the key criteria. It's not about smarts. It's not about I earn this amount of money. It's about that willingness to grow. We talked about it earlier. There are, you talked about how you gave on a plate an exact strategy for someone to start a blog, and they told you they wanted it, and yet for whatever reason, something internally stopping them from doing that. Mm-hmm. So I look for action takers. There are so many people in this world that are I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and they don't. So I always look for action takers. Look for people that say what they're going to do and back it up and actually do it. And they're the people that I want to surround myself with. Not talkers, but doers. And once again, it ties into the theme of your show. It's that 20-mile march. It's actually doing the work. And for some people, that's the impossible thing. They can talk about all they want, all the theories, but all these great ideas. And the reality is, it's the action, and it's the one foot in front of the other. And it's, let's make this happen. Let's just work at it. Let's try it and see. Those are the people that I'm drawn to most, because they're the ones that are going to get more out of life, because they're taking action. They're not passively sitting back and going, yeah, I'm going to do this, and then actually can't follow through.
Mm-hmm. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you, Ronan?
The best way probably right now is LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn every day. I love the platform. I find it far more targeted for meaningful conversations with the right people, as opposed to Facebook groups. I think a lot of people are over Facebook groups and even find that information on there. You've got to scroll through to look at all the answers, all the questions. Is that relevant to me? So I spend the majority of my limited time on social media, because I do try and limit it, because it's a terrible waste of your time. So on LinkedIn's probably the best place to find me.
Gary Vee would argue with you on that one.
It's great for marketers, and I don't think it's that great for productivity. So I believe there are two people on social media. Those are people that are wasting time, and those that are selling to them. So which one are you?
Yes. Are you producing content for it, or are you consuming it?
Yes. Yeah.
And your name is spelled Ronan, Ronan Leonard, Leonard, just like how you'd spell Leonard. So
Yep, the Mastermind Guy. So yeah, LinkedIn's a good place for me. No, on LinkedIn, I do have a Twitter account, and I do have a Facebook account on accountability, and they are monitored. I am doing some work on there, but ultimately, out of the three platforms, LinkedIn's my favorite. Or you can just message me, info@accountability.io. So I always respond to email really quickly as well.
yeah, and that accountability is with an E at the beginning, not A.
Yeah, it's a play on words. So I thought of accountability as one of the key things that we lack as small business owners and entrepreneurs. It's the difference often between success and failure. The word accountability is quite generic and overtaken, and because it's online, I took the E and I turned it into accountability.
Clever.
So, and I'm now forever spelling the name correctly.
um, so thanks, Ronan. I really enjoyed our talk today, and I hope it was good for you as well.
Lovely. Thanks, Gabrielle. Thanks for having me on your show, and good luck with your next lot of guests. And I hope the show keeps growing.
Now that's the plan, is just to try to continue to add value for people, and let us know in the comments when you visit the blog, the 20milemarch.com, what you think of it. And if you do, it does help if you leave a rating or review. That helps other people find the podcast. But it's important just for me to continue to try to produce as much valuable content and to help others down the right path, and to connect people and be a resource for people. Like that's what I really enjoy about it. So I want to always thank my listeners, and I appreciate every one of you that's listening. So take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.